rampart, and unfortunately you won't see much of that just now because we're not that far on in terms of digging it. But you might, the eagle eye might just see at the bottom there some of the stones of the rampart peeking out. And this is the inner face of the seaward rampart. And the top of the wall is just above these boards here. And we'll dig down about 2.5 meters from that level there to get the base of the wall. So it's an incredible structure, and that's because the natural topography was sloping down here, and they've built the wall on the contemporary ground surface, and then they've actually backfilled this with sand up to about that level there in order to create a level surface in here. And that's amazing in terms of the preservation. The wall is still standing about 3 meters high, and we can see all the coursing of the wall. And we can also see the timber framework here. So we've got beams, oak beams running along the wall face, and then beams going into the core of the wall, creating this kind of lattice work. And that gives the wall this amazing strength here. And then stone wall faces made from quarried sandstone on this side here. And a lot of the sandstone looks like it came from Hopeman, a couple of kilometres away. So they had to ship all that material here. So just think all the resources and labour going into building a wall 6 to 8 metres wide, about 6 metres high, all the way around this site, down the middle here and down the lower fort. And that in itself tells you again that this is a high status settlement with lots of resources going into this. And we know that in places like contemporary Ireland, where we have better historical sources, one of your dues to your king was to give a certain amount of labour per year to build things like roadways and ramparts of forts. So that's probably the kind of processes that are going on here, is that people are coming from far and wide to help build fortifications like this. So really quite an unequal society. Even more so than today, with lots of different levels of free labourers and farmers and slaves. There were slaves in early medieval society. So we often romanticise the Picts, but they were involved in the slave trade in the Roman period and in the post-Roman period. So as much as we love their artwork and marvel at their constructions, you probably wouldn't want to live in the Pictish period, I don't think. Right, so what we've got here, in front of John here, who's just given up working, the hard life. John's from Burghead. Say hello to John.
Hello.
But don't ask him to tell you any stories. John knows where to go. Just in front of John here, we've got a couple of pits and post holes here. This is from probably a wooden building. And the one that John's digging just now, you can see all the black material in there, and that's basically hearth waste that they've thrown out from their fires. And the amazing thing about that is that we can radiocarbon date that and tell you how old these early phase structures are. And then partly covered over by our spoil heap here is there's a little wall that comes this way, made with these flat stones, and that went right up to the rampart, and it must be some sort of interior building here. But unfortunately one of Alan's small trenches went right through the middle of the trench, which is why we're using that as a dumping ground now. And then the two guys over here, James and David, are cleaning up an area with some more post holes and little pits over here. So we're getting the old contemporary Pictish ground surface down there, and trying to put together a picture of how many buildings were in here, what kind of activities were going on. Last year we had some nice metalworking hearths in the trench that was over here. So over the next few years we'll be able to piece together this lovely plan of all the different buildings and structures within this area of the fort. And what we're also doing is 100% excavation, all the deposits. We'll sample all those, we'll process all the animal bone, tell you about the economy, date all the different phases. And we're also rescuing the wall before it falls into the sea and recording the structure, and we'll be able to build this amazing image of how the wall was constructed right across this area to the other side there. So we've got quite a lot of work ahead of us. So that's this trench here. Any questions?
Is that 3 different post holes that are there? Is it
Yeah.
two? Right, the question I would say is that they seem very large. There must have been very large trees in them. And why are they so close together? I mean, there's no room to go in between them. So what's the point of them?
They might be from different phases, but yeah, they are very large posts, and the same in the wall as well. They're big oak timbers, huge. So think of the thousands of trees they must have had to fell in order to build the rampart and the structures inside. So again, it tells you about the resources, and almost certainly those trees don't come from Burghead. They must be, felling trees in nearby areas, maybe taking them in by boat or floating them in. So the labour involved in all the structures and the ramparts is quite incredible. So yeah, we can get the kind of profile of the timbers through digging these features, taking 50% out and getting a profile through it. You can somehow see the ghost of the post, and you can estimate how big the timbers are and the like. But the problem is we've just got these kind of narrow windows because of those 1960s trenches and antiquarian trenches. So trying to piece together the buildings is a bit of a challenge, because we get a couple of post holes here and then a couple of post holes there. Do they all go together? And to be honest, we don't know yet, but hopefully over the years we'll be able to find some plans and piece together the structures inside.
And you're digging in the summer. How do you intend to sort of preserve this site through the winter to look after it? Or are you planning to do this year round? How does it work?
Yeah, so we only dig 2 weeks during the summer, and we have to fill it back in again. Lots of people have said, "Oh, could you leave the wall for public display?" But it's incredibly dangerous. You can imagine with the timbers rotting out, the wall is just basically collapsing. So this is why we have this shoring, basically to keep us alive while we dig down there. And we record the structure of the wall as we go down. And there's no way we can leave it open for safety reasons. So this all gets backfilled again, and we come back next year and we start the process again. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's the way we have to do it.
It looks as if you've got some heat damage in the stones of the wall and the box.
Yep.
Is that local or is it more extensive? I'm not seeing it in the stones over in the corner here.
Yeah, so the top 3 rows of timbers in the wall have been destroyed by fire. We don't know whether that's through enemy action or some sort of accidental fire, but they've actually tried to shore it up after it's been on fire. So we found lots of kind of pebbles and boulders and slabs up against that wall to prop it up after it's been burnt. So it wasn't the final event. The fort wasn't abandoned as soon as it was burnt, clearly. So again, hopefully we can piece together the story of that. How long after that burning event was the fort still occupied?
Could it be the thatch going up in this building that might have been here, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can imagine all these dry timbers. Any little fire could potentially put this whole thing up in flames. But it could also be from actual attack as well. So again, hopefully we need to find the smoking gun of some dead ticks lying on the
Yeah, or if it continues that way.
Yeah. Well, it certainly continues about
So I mean, the
30
burning,
meters.
not the wall.
Sorry?
The burning, not the wall.
Yeah, the burning continues. We've got about a 30 metre stretch here, all the way over there. Yeah.
Is that where you were saying earlier the metal work was?
No.
Probably a bit more of an obvious one these guys were asking me. You're saying about carbon dating and stuff. You also said earlier about it having like somewhere around a 200-year life cycle. Again, probably betraying my lack of knowledge here. The last time I checked the carbon dating, it had quite a wide berth of where it's looking at, like like maybe a century or two itself. So, is it more? Can you narrow it down more with more modern techniques, so like maybe 50 years or something, or is it just linking it with some of the artifacts?
So that's a question about radiocarbon dating. How accurate can we get with that? And yeah, traditionally radiocarbon dating had wide error margins, plus or minus 50, 100 years even. So you could be able to say, well, it's Pictish period, but can't say much more than that. But the precision radiocarbon dates is getting better and better as we go through time. And even with a single date, you might be able to get down to a kind of 50, 100 year time period. But what we can also do is modelling those dates. So if you've got, for this site now, we've got about 80 radiocarbon dates, and you can model those as a group using stats that I don't know much about. But you can then begin to narrow the likelihood down. So you can get it down to the kind of decadal level or generational level. So that's the kind of accuracy that we're beginning to get from sites like this. So we'll be able to say within probably 50 years, maybe less, when the site started and when it ended. So that's the amazing thing about archaeological science, is it's progressing all the time. So we've got more and more accurate readings from things like radiocarbon dating. Yeah. Right. So we head down to the lower citadel. If you want to follow me, like the Pied Piper.